Hey, everybody, welcome to another grad interview. Tonight, we're interviewing Fabiana, and she is. Why don't you actually tell us where you're from, where you are, yeah, where you're from. Where are you right now?
I'm in Eagle, Idaho, which is just a suburb of Boise.
Oh, I love that. Is a beautiful area. I mean, we're going up to Montana at the end of August, so not Idaho, but in that area. I just love the Northwest.
It's beautiful. But this is not potato, sugar beet country. So we're
Sugar
farmland
beet country.
right here.
Okay.
Yeah, potato
Okay.
country is on the other side of the state, close to where we live.
Okay.
But yeah,
So, those of you who are joining us in the comments, please tell Fabiana and I where you're watching from. I love seeing everybody. We've got people from all over the world who watch. I'm sure people in the UK might not be watching now because it's in the middle of the night, but otherwise, we love to hear where everybody is watching from. So, this interview is going to be so great because we send all of our grads pre live questions, right? And just we ask them questions, and whenever I joined Fabiana live and we're talking backstage before we went live, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for you guys to hear from her, because her story is so much more from she went from wedding photography to food photography. It's like my mind is blown. So that just feels so small now. Like it doesn't do it justice of what has happened for you. And so I wanted to take us back to the very beginning. And what were you doing before Pretty Focused?
so I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it because I've rehearsed this in my mind for 12 months. I am actually an international award-winning portrait photographer.
Girl?
I know, and I didn't let anyone know that because
No, you didn't.
didn't want the pressure of anybody knowing that. But
Sure.
high school seniors, sports, and weddings are kind of what I have been doing for the last 15 years. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So what awards did you get from what organization?
Professional Photographers of America.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've had
Wow.
some prints go loan and that kind of stuff. So, and I've won some stuff, I don't know, around here and different things that I've entered. But yeah.
Moly.
And I've judged some stuff, and yeah, it's so fun. I love it. I love photography. Have been in love with it forever. Started with black and white medium format film. Took some college classes when my youngest went to first grade, and I had my own darkroom and all that kind of stuff. And then when we moved to Idaho, that was in New Mexico. When we moved to Idaho, my husband said, should we maybe think about having go digital? Anyway, my professor had studied with Ansel Adams, and so we didn't even say digital back then because steam coming out his ears. So
right, of course.
Anyway, but digital just kind of changed my life, and I just love it, love everything about it. So yeah.
Wow. My mind is blown right now. So if you are winning awards and you are doing so well there, why move to food?
So about 5 years ago, I was jumping on the trampoline because I'm an idiot, and I shattered my foot. And it was a huge operation, 3 months in a cast, and another 3 months no weight bearing for 6 months. It was a full year before I could put a shoe on that foot. And weddings, as you know, require a lot. And so it just got to the point where it's great to do weddings because you have this huge influx of cash. But, a normal wedding for me involves many, many hours on my feet. And I just couldn't keep doing that. I mean, I'm 55.
Yeah.
There's lots of really cute, adorable girls that can do that. And I couldn't walk the next day after a wedding. And
Yeah.
it just got to the point where I couldn't do that anymore. So decided that I needed to do something else. And I'd been looking for a while and just couldn't find anything. But yeah, that's why I was looking for something else to do.
So how did you did you find pretty focused in your looking for something else? How did that cross your path?
So a friend of mine who used to be a portrait photographer started blogging, and she flew me out to do a branding session for her. And she kind of introduced me to what she was doing, and it was just fascinating. And then last summer, she posted in a group. We have this group of gals that are portrait photographers. There's about 120 of us all over the world. And she posted in there and said, hey, anybody, you all know that I'm doing food photography now. I'm doing this blog. If anybody wants to learn more about being a food photographer, here's a link. And so she posted the thing to Pretty Focus. And so I texted her and I said, okay, what is this? And she said, yeah, I love it. It's been great. I thought she was a Pretty Focus grad, but she's not. She actually hires from the Buyers Club. And so I watched all the interviews, every interview. We were actually on our way driving from Boise to Seattle to see our daughter, ignored my husband all the way there and just watched grad interviews. And
Wow.
Anyway, I wrote her an email. She got me in touch with Erin because she had hired Erin to do some recipes for Erin.
Erin Gearhart?
Yes, she answered every question I had. And then once we got to the hotel, I literally watched everything I could get my hands on. And it seemed legit. So I was like, all right, let's try this. Let's just see what's happening.
What?
Yeah. And that was a year ago.
I don't know what to say to that. That's amazing. Like, that is, to my mind, that's amazing. So you had your friend who's a blogger recommend it to you, and you watched all the interviews. Fabulous. I love it. And you were like, this is what I want to do. This is the next step for me. So here's my next question is, because we get this all the time. I just got a message like 2 days ago from somebody who said, I'm already a photographer. And they even said, I'm already working with bloggers. I already have my own shop. People just want to get to the Buyers Club, like, I'm already a photographer. Can I just pay my way into the Buyers Club? And we always tell them no, because there's so much to learn. People don't realize what there is to learn. So from your perspective, from somebody who was an incredibly established photographer, okay, sorry, I got a message and I thought it said the interview is over. So I thought that I was like, no, we died. Okay. All right. I'm so sorry. So you have, I was like, this is getting so good. It can't have ended. Okay. So what was that like for you, who you are an award-winning photographer? Okay. You joined Pretty Focused. What was that like for you?
It was not easy at first. Number one, I thought,
I got this.
And the coursework was not difficult. When I talked to Erin, I said, do I need this? Can I just go into doing that? And she's like, no. This is so different than portrait work. And it really is like 180 difference from portrait work. It's just so different that I almost felt like I was relearning stuff. Now, I didn't have to learn my camera. So that is a good thing. But for someone who's never picked up a camera, you almost have it better because you are just getting taught this, like, here you go. Here's what you need
Yeah.
to do. And
Yeah.
so for me, at first it was a little difficult because, you basically go through the coursework
Yeah.
and then you start doing recipes and you post in this group and then the coaches give you feedback. Well, the first feedback I got was okay. It was overexposed. It wasn't, it wasn't my greatest work. And so as I'm sitting there getting the feedback, I was like, okay, first assignment's fine. Second assignment wasn't too much better. And I thought, well, gosh, dang it. I know more about photography than you do. I've been doing this since 1999. Like, how are you telling me you've been doing this for 3 months or 3 years? But I think the thing that I came to realize is that these coaches that are giving you feedback are working professionals. You've heard that if you can do and if you can't teach. That's not the case here. I mean, these coaches are working with clients. They know this stuff and you can't get any better than someone who's in the trenches that's giving you feedback going, okay, no, now try this and do this. And it was always done with love, always done just so, so sweet. The coaches seriously are amazing, amazing women. But they're in the field. So so it wasn't easy. You have to, kind of swallow your pride and just be like, okay, and I told myself over and over and over and over. And I did this because my daughter, I was talking to her about it and she's like, Mom, you're learning a new skill. And it really is learning a new skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So your first post, you've graduated where you are now. When you look back to that first post, hopefully I would love to see that first post. I need to look for it. And then your work now, were you like, okay, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I understand why. And do you see a difference in your work?
Oh my gosh. It's laughable. And I just,
no. I'm
so
sure.
bad. Oh, I think it was my third recipe I did. It was so bad. I just literally erased all of the images. Nobody ever saw anything. It was in the trash. I shot all day one day. It was this great Halloween thing. And I looked at the pictures and was like, wow, this is bad. But, you're in there, you're in the trenches. The coaches are in the trenches. You make amazing friends and pretty focused. I literally could call half a dozen women and be like, my so-and-so is not setting up. What am I doing wrong? And they'll walk through it with me. So, you just make really good friends and so improvement. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Because there is a little bit of a learning curve because there's a different style with it.
Right.
The way we compose, a lot of people who have done, like Amy Treasure, one of our coaches, has done beautiful magazine work, beautiful. And she's like, it's different because here, instead of it being focused on the scene, it's really focused on the food. And you want to make sure that the recipes, are well executed. Right. So, there's just like a lot of different pieces to it. It's more than just taking a photo of food, right? There's a lot to it.
Well, and it's not like, you see these gorgeous Instagram posts with these food and they're beautiful. But that's not what this is. You're teaching someone how to make something. And so it's step by step. This is what you do. And there's a certain rhythm to it and a certain balance to it. But you do have to make it beautiful because if your food looks like garbage, nobody wants to click on that recipe.
I know. It's like you might have a really great photo with a real great camera and the settings are great and the lighting is great. But if it's burnt,
Exactly.
See, so it's so much more than just that. And so we teach all of that in the course. Like we've got, and like you said, for those who have never picked up a camera before, like we have coaches who joined never having picked up a camera.
Right.
And we have lots of students. I had somebody message us who just graduated, and she's like, I didn't know how to use a camera 6 months ago, and the quality of her work is just stunning. And that is because our coaches are coaching.
Right.
And it's the culmination of the content and the coaching. I think that is really what's able to get people there so quickly. And we don't want anybody to leave money on the table either.
Right. And, when I talk to my friends about stuff about this, I kind of explain it this way. When you pretty focused, I mean, it's an amazing program, but really it's kind of like going to vocational school. So if you're going to go to be a cosmetologist, you're going to learn a bunch of stuff at the beginning. And then you have to put in the hours of cutting the hair and doing the makeup and perming or coloring or whatever. And you've got your teacher right there that's right along with you. They can't just give you the information and release you and be like, good luck. Hope you don't burn somebody's head. You know what I mean? Or, they'll come over and say, hey, the bangs are crooked or whatever. And they help you along the way. And so that is what these coaches are doing. They have, at one point I messaged Redonda and I'm like, okay, Renata's one of the, they're all amazing coaches, but she and I clicked. And and so I messaged her one time and I said, okay, what are you guys looking for? And she said, look at the step-by-step. We're going to, make sure your settings are right. Make sure your white balance is right. And then they go down. And so they give you like, okay, these are all the things you did really well. For your next recipe, let's work on this. And then the next time you post a recipe, you say, okay, I was working on this. And then you go on. And so, they're making sure the bangs aren't cut sideways.
You're right. I think that's like the best analogy ever.
Yeah. You have to put in the time, and that's what you're doing. The material is not difficult to learn, but putting it into practice takes time. And
how many online courses are just like, they just sell you the content and then they're like, figure it out. You figure out how to apply it. You figure out how to get clients. Well, we've done our part, but it's more than just like an online. It's more than an online course. I mean, I think
it's not an online course.
It's not right. It's like
not an online course.
It's so great. I just think that's fabulous. Bang cutting. Yeah, make sure your bangs are looking good. Okay, so you graduated. Tell me what happened. Well, first of all, did you do the portfolio process with Lindsay?
Yes.
Okay, how was that portfolio process?
Well, I'm going to go back a little bit because let me just tell you what I did. Because I can't do things normal. I'm not normal. I'm just crazy. So what I did was I shoot sports. And so I messaged the football mom, the team mom. And I said, hey, I had talked to her a couple of times on the phone. And I said, I've heard you're are you a blogger? Do you do any recipes? Do you have any recipes I can practice on? Because I thought, I'm just going to get a head up and just start practicing with maybe some recipes. And she said, yeah, I'm a blogger. I had no idea who she was. No idea. She'd been blogging for 15 years. She is an Oprah ambassador. She's a Disney ambassador. She's an ambassador for a cruise line. She works with all the major companies. And so here I am, total idiot. Hi, do you have any recipes I can work on?
And she was a football?
So
Mom?
her son was a senior
Son.
and on the football team that I
Oh,
photographed.
okay. So you just okay.
So I'm just
Okay.
like, hey, do you have anything? So she sent me 30 recipes and I sent her the first one. And I was so nervous because I'm like 3 months in at this point
Sure.
and not even close to graduating. So I just said, just give me feedback. Give me feedback so that I'm not only getting the coach's feedback, but I'm getting feedback from you. And she looked at my stuff and said, this is better than anything I've got on my website right now. And I was like, okay, you're an idiot. These are terrible, but thank you. And so by the time I had sent in the third one, she called me and she said, I have a dormant blog and I want you to think about possibly, because I had explained to her how Pretty Focus worked and that, the buyers club. And she said, I think that we could do something pretty special together. So will you think about it? And so for about 2 weeks, I thought about it, talked it over with my husband, and we decided, all right, let's see. And I said, I don't want to really start anything till I graduate, but I'll start doing recipes. And she said, I will teach you everything I know. We'll split all the proceeds on the blog. And so we started doing that. So even before I graduated, we were already starting to do stuff for that. And then once I started doing portfolio, I would post stuff for feedback in with Lindsay, and I would have bloggers who are in the program or in the Pretty Focused group.
Yeah.
They would message me and say, can I buy this from you? I know you haven't graduated. Can I buy it? And I was like, I mean, nothing was signed yet. So I didn't want to say, no, this is for my blog, but I was like, I developed this for someone else. And so, but I could have sold recipes that I did for our blog before I graduated. So that's the power of Pretty Focus. It's insane.
Quality, like picture, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, she's been blogging for 15 years and said nothing on her blog was even close to what I was giving her. And she actually, I don't even know how, but she had never heard of Pretty Focus. So she was like, wait, who's doing what? And anyway, yeah.
Okay. Well, we will be chatting about that. We'll be chatting about that. Okay. So you mentioned before we went live that you brought your daughter. You moved your daughter from LA to Idaho. What is that all about?
So she was just in a place where she was looking to do something new. And I was talking to her one day. I was actually on my way to Utah to shoot a wedding. And I was probably 3 weeks in. And I said, why don't we have a little rental house here? And I said, why don't you come up and learn how to do this? I think you could. I mean, she is so artistic and so amazing. And what she has that I don't have is she is an amazing writer. Like, she is just an amazing, amazing writer. Wow. And so I said, come up here and let's do this together. I'll do mine. So I paid for my course and then I paid for her course and said, okay, let's get you whatever you need. And so we got her a nice camera and she has all the same equipment that I do. And she is killing it. She's actually working for bloggers without graduating. She's trying to make a little extra money, but she hasn't graduated yet, but I have her writing my posts for me because she understands the process. And so it's given her like this whole other new career. And I can't wait for her to graduate because she is just going to blow you away with her stuff.
Oh my gosh. And, we have had people, start working, they meet bloggers in other groups and stuff. And so that's how they kind of, as they're going through Pretty Focus, they're working with other bloggers and stuff. And then they graduate and then it's just like they explode.
Yeah.
And that's so exciting to see. What happened when you graduated?
I went in, I had to be different. Got to be different. When you graduate from Pretty Focus, they do a gorgeous job of putting together a little video about your work, and then they announce you in the Buyers Club. And so I got announced in the Buyers Club, and I thought, I'm just going to do a video. I'm going to do just a quick little video. And I think it was maybe 60 seconds. And I said, hey, this is who I am. I just graduated. Love to work with you. Let me know. And so I had 3 bloggers, nicest women on the planet, reach out to me and say, we'd love for you to do some recreations. And so I did those 3 recreations. And I was also working on recipes for the blog. And so I just thought, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do both of these things. And on top of that, I should probably say it took me 9 months to graduate. And the reason it took, I have it written down. The reason it took me 9 months is because during those 9 months, I got to put my glasses on because yes, I am old. I did 6 weddings, 21 basketball games, 13 football games, and those are college and high school, 23 seniors, 4 branding sessions. And I told Lenore, just to kind of give you an idea of the numbers we're talking about, one football game, I come home with over 5,000 images.
Oh my gosh.
It's a lot of work. So when I went into this, I was like, I'm just so good. I'll be done, because I'm an idiot. And then I looked at my schedule, and we were going to El Salvador for 2 weeks. I had a wedding. I was doing a senior workshop in Philadelphia. I was attending a senior workshop in Philadelphia. Yeah. So I had all this stuff going on, and then getting Rebecca up here, and then doing all, just all the sessions I already had on the books. There was no way I was going to graduate in any timely fashion.
Right.
So I did those 3. And
then 9 months is not bad though.
What was that?
Say 9 months isn't bad because the average is like 3 to 6 months.
Right.
And with all of that, you still went like 9 months.
Yeah.
I mean, far off.
And there was Christmas and Thanksgiving. And so here I thought, we don't have any games. And I don't have any sessions during Christmas. I'll bat a bunch of them out. Well, the coaches are kind of wanting to spend time with their families. And so anyway, so that was in there too. There was like 3 weeks that the coaches weren't available. So anyway, but it was so fun. It was so fun. And after doing those 3 recreations, I sat down with my husband, sat down with my schedule, and I said, I don't know if I can do the blog and be working for bloggers. How do you, and he said, just forget about the recreations, just go full bore on the blog. And so I've been working on that, and
wow,
I'm on a blast. It's so fun.
You're just doing photos for the blog, right?
No,
are you doing more?
I'm doing all of it.
Are you writing and everything too?
Well, most of the time I'll come up with the concept, figure out the recipe that, because of where I'm at, I need the recipes to rank quickly. And so I'm very selective of what we're putting up on the blog. And so I'm figuring out the recipe, and then I'm developing it. And then I'm shooting it, and then I'm doing all the stuff. And then usually I'll write something up and I'll give it to Rebecca and say, okay, you write up the blog post. And so, I learned how to do it, but I've kind of handed it to her and said, okay, you do it. And she is so good at it. She is so good at it. So, I get
you are incredible.
Ready, resize, rename, do the alt text, and I just kind of tell people, if you get a recipe off of a blog, you need to tell that person how amazing they are for providing it for you, because it is a job. It is,
Yeah. It's a lot
it's
of work.
so much work to get one recipe on a blog. It's
Yeah.
crazy, but
Yeah.
it's so, and
Yeah.
you
I
know
love
what?
it.
Food doesn't care if it looks fat. It's so annoying. Cupcakes don't care if they look
It's
fat.
cupcakes don't have double chins or
And if
no,
they
none
do,
of
it's
that.
a good thing.
Oh my gosh. So tell us about your like what kind of opportunities has this opened up for you?
It's so crazy. Okay, so
Tell us.
so Carrie Lynn, sorry, my hair's driving me crazy. So Carrie Lynn found out that this is my business partner. She found out that I used to teach cake decorating classes, like clear back when Rebecca
Oh,
was a
of
baby,
course
and she's 30.
you did.
So it's been years.
Yeah.
But I used to teach cake decorating, and she had a thing where Wilton would send her a box, and she just didn't have time to do anything with it. And so when she found out, she's like, "Do you want to work with Wilton?" And I said, yeah. And so she wrote to them and said, "Hey, I've got this business partner. Are you guys interested?" And so I get a box every 6 weeks full of goodies. And then I do a video. I took the video course at Pretty
Okay.
Focus video course. It's amazing for what I needed. I needed to be using my phone. And so I do reels with my phone. Wilton has shared 3 of them. I have so much stuff, you guys, it's crazy. We've worked with Walmart Plus. We've worked with, who else? Built Bars.
You said Zulily too?
Zulily. We worked with Zulily, and I mean, I've gotten Cuisinart stuff. I've gotten KitchenAid stuff. Wilton has said, just tell her whatever. They just basically have me go on their website and just request whatever I want, and they just send it. And they weren't going to they didn't have any plans to send anything out this summer. And then all of a sudden they said, "Hey, we've got a package coming." And it was the brand new drizzles. And so I got to use the drizzles like a month before anybody else did. And it's just so fun to be like, okay, here's a product, or here's a new pan.
Sure.
People with Gordon Ramsay sent a couple of pans. I mean, they're like $300 a piece. And
They're hexclad. Are those the hexclad ones?
Mm-hmm. And so, I just get to play, and it's in this day and age, I think it's really difficult. It's difficult for women to have a purpose we're moms, and we're sisters, and we're grandmas, and all that stuff. But having this has been so good for my mental health, because I don't have time to be depressed. I don't have time to worry about what the Joneses are doing. I'm like, Wilton is sending me this thing, and I got to figure out something really cool to do with it. And my mind is going 24/7. Like, I will wake up in the middle of the night and just start scribbling ideas of something else to do. Carrie Lynn sent me this thing on, I don't know if you guys know what those hard Easter eggs, they're made out of sugar. And she sent me a picture and said,
Okay.
my readers can't order these. They order them from Etsy. Do you know how to make these? And I was like, no, but I can learn. So I got on, learned how to do it, did a whole thing. Wilton shared it, got 213,000 views. The views on the blog went sky high. I mean, it was just so fun to be able to problem solve and do this stuff. And I tell people all the time, this Pretty Focus thing is like a choose your own adventure, because you could do recreations. You could sell this other stuff.
Yeah.
You could sell your recipes. You could start a blog. You could develop for a blogger. You can do all kinds of things. There's UCG, user generated, UGC, user generated content.
Yeah.
You could make reels for companies. I mean, these companies do not want to be spending money on advertising agencies. And so they have influencers, they have bloggers, they have people like us come up with ideas and they share them, and it's more authentic. I think,
Yeah.
people on Instagram want authenticity. And
Yeah.
so there's so much you can do. And Pretty
Yeah.
Focus just like sets you up with gorgeous photography skills where you're not just developing a recipe. You're not just picking a recipe and changing
Right.
it from half a cup of sugar to 3/4 cup of sugar or whatever.
Right. Right.
You guys teach us how to be ethical. You teach us how to do it correctly. And it's amazing. There is nothing like this out there. I
Yeah.
have spent
No.
literally tens of thousands of dollars on classes, and not one of them has a buyer's club. They don't set you up with clients as soon as you're done.
Yeah.
It's just unheard of.
Yeah. So the big question that people really want to know is how high is the demand? And then there's an assumption that the market is oversaturated. What would you say to that?
So I'm not going to be politically correct and say okay. From what I see, from being on the blogger side, because of the way Google Analytics works, I think we're not at the point where you can just throw up a recipe and bloggers are going to buy it from you. It's just, we're not at that point right now. Right now, you have to come up with stuff that doesn't look like poop. I mean, you got to make it
Yes.
look nice. If you are going to sell recreations, if you're going to sell exclusives, which means that you develop a recipe and you sell it to the blogger and then they put it on their website. If you're going to be doing that, you need to put a little bit of work into it. This is not a get rich quick scheme.
Right.
You're going to work your butt off. I mean, when I graduated, I cried. This is probably the hardest I've ever worked at anything.
Wow. Oh
Um,
my gosh.
I was on the call with TLN and I am just bawling because I thought I worked for this. I
Oh
worked
my
for my
gosh.
sort of, and I don't even consider myself a graduate. I consider myself a certified food blogger, a certified food photographer. I can do
Wow.
this. I can
Yeah.
make reels anyway. But as far
Wow.
as demand goes, if you can come up with some cute stuff, I see people all the time in the Buyers Club. They will post something and it's gone within 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
If it lasts an hour, I'm surprised. It's like the bloggers are out doing something because
Yeah, they must be
yeah.
they're at Target or something.
Just yesterday, somebody posted in the Buyers Club and said, I don't know what to do. People are calling me and they want to buy stuff before I even post it in my, and it's not fair to
Great.
those that are on my mailing list because they want to buy it before. So if you do good work,
Absolutely.
if
The
you
demand,
do shoddy work, you're not gonna do well.
right.
But
The demand is there for high quality work. So we teach, so for those of you who are listening who are like, well, I don't want to develop recipes. Well, you don't have to. You can do recreations, but the work needs still, you still need to have great photos, right? And
that's
so,
what they're hiring you for, because they have
right.
recipes that maybe they did 10
Yeah.
years ago and they put cell phone pictures up.
Yeah.
And now it's like, it used to be that Google would reward you for these very wordy stories.
Yeah.
I got this recipe from my grandma and they had cruddy pictures, and that's not what Google is rewarding bloggers for now. They want really gorgeous pictures. And so they're hiring you to make their recipes look amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely right. And we have, I think also back in the day, there used to be like is it like, this is what my family loves to eat. So this is what I'm going to make and photograph and put on the blog. But now there's a little bit more strategy behind it
Yeah, you can't
with
do that.
with
No.
keywords and everything. And so that's also a strategy that we teach inside of Pretty Focused, where you have really knowing what to look for, what are keywords, how you use them as a photographer. But we also want photographers to remember that while that's a great strategy, photos, like, your job is photos. Now you're in a unique position because you are a blogger and a photographer, right? So you really have a good understanding of both needs. So, but that photography, beautiful photography, that is the greatest area, right? Of, I think, to make sure that you focus on whenever you're going through the course, and to not get lost too in the weeds of making sure you've picked the perfect. I mean, yes, obviously it needs to be something that's going to be of value to bloggers, but what is also going to be of value is making sure those photos are beautiful, that
Well,
you've really
here's the
done a
thing.
great job of showing that recipe. Yeah, tell me.
A food blogger will only get paid if somebody goes to their
Yeah.
blog.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
my job as a blogger is to put pictures on Instagram, on Facebook, on whatever, on an email list that makes somebody stop and go, oh, I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing and I'm going to go to a different platform. I'm going to click on this recipe and I'm going to go learn how to make it. And so if your recipes, if your pictures don't look enticing, if there's not oozing chocolate or gravy that glistens, or if your chocolate is horrible,
Right.
nobody's going to click
Flat.
on that. And so
Yeah.
why would a blogger pay you to do that? they
Right.
they need to stop traffic, and they need
Yep.
to make a person say, oh, I'm going to stop and I'm going to click on this and I'm going to see, and then
Yeah.
they get ad money from their
Yeah.
blog. And so I think Pretty Focus does a great job. I mean, between the hackathons and of just explaining all this stuff
Hmm.
so that you understand what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And I even think it came after you grad. I'm not. When did you graduate?
March 31st, my son's birthday.
Okay. Okay, so I added lessons to module 2. Now I can't, it's all a blur now. And one of them was the reader's journey, of really making sure photographers are understanding that we're not just working for bloggers. We are, but really the photos are serving, like, it's the reader. It's the reader that really matters, that both the blogger and the photographer are trying to serve, right? Because again, they don't get paid unless the readers go to the blog. So it's like you could have a beautiful photo on social, and that's what you see a lot of. Like, you're like, oh, that's a pretty photo. Okay, keep scrolling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you don't want just that's a pretty photo. You want that drizzle. You want to see the chocolate glisten. So then you're like, I have to make that right now. And there's really two different ways readers there's more than two ways. I talk about the two main ways is like this. The one that's really most, I think, relatable to people is whenever you're laying in bed at night and you're scrolling, and they always post, those bloggers know what they're doing, because they always post those recipes at night when you're laying in bed and you're hungry, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, I need to make that. Click. And then you go over to the blog. Do I have all those ingredients? Maybe you're crazy and get out of bed and make it. Or maybe you make a plan to make it as soon as possible, right? And so and it'll just sit in your mind. That's happens to me, just sits in your mind for a couple of days. And you're like, I have to make this. I have to make this. And then you go back to the blog to get the recipe again. And then the other way is where you're like meal planning, right? And so then you are intentionally using search engines like Google and Pinterest. Pinterest is unique because it's a search engine, but it's also a social outlet too. But I would say it's more turning into more of a search engine for people where they go and they're looking at the chicken recipes. And so,
Right.
you're using those tools and you're doing a little bit more of an intentional search. And so when you're looking on Google, then there's the, the ingredients of the recipe, there's the stars, there's the ratings, but then there's also the photo that pulls you in
Yep.
and as well. And so knowing that as photographers helps us serve our bloggers better, because it's helping the bloggers to serve the readers better. And we have to know that. As a photographer, especially you've done lots of branding sessions, you have to know how those photos are being used.
Right.
You've got to know the end result and understand that end result so you can actually give them photos that they can use.
Exactly.
Right. And so
you have
it's
to
like
think of
the same here.
what's the end use? It's
Yes,
just like,
always.
you do family pictures. I'm like, is this going on your wall or is this going for your Christmas card? People are like, what do
Right.
I wear? Well, what are you going to do with it?
Yep.
So, with these, it's like, what are you going to do with this? Well, I'm trying to get somebody to go off of Instagram and go look at my blog, or I'm trying to get someone who's in my email to actually click on it, because
To
that,
take action.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I do want to go back to something you said, because I think it's really important. You said that you have updated the course.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in I took a class a few years ago and they updated the course, and it's a portrait thing. And they're like, yeah, for an extra $99, you get access to this. And that's not Pretty Focused. That Pretty Focused is, when we update it, we let you know, and we want you to go in and review it. And all grads go in and we all review the new stuff. So it's constantly, maybe something that worked in 2018 is not working in 2023. And Melody goes in and updates it, and you get it all. I mean, it's just, it's expensive. I'm not going to lie. It's expensive. Tier 3 is expensive. But if you do it right, you make all the money back. You sell your portfolio and you make all your money back within a week.
So
not do it.
So in that terms, it's not expensive. If you can't make your investment back, I would label that expensive. But because 100% of our grads have paid it off, and they pay it off at the most I've heard is 6 weeks. And so then that determines, like, we've got people who are connecting right away. We got people who are selling shops. We got people who are selling their portfolios, right? So, that if you do it within 3 days, we've had people do that. We've had people do it within 45 minutes, and we have people who do it within 6 weeks. So, the return on investment is absolutely there. And that's something that we keep an eye on with our grad survey that we do every year, to make sure that we have, because we want to see where everybody's going. That's another thing we do is every year we send out that survey to our grads so we can see where the industry is at for pricing, and we can really keep track of that to help our grads know where they're landing at in the pricing, for pricing, right? Making sure that they're not under and they're not over, make sure that they're staying on top of things. So,
and it just keeps going up. The prices I'm seeing that people are getting for, it's beautiful work. It's beautiful work. They have earned it. But it's kind of crazy. And for me, it was like, I could do 10 recipes or a wedding. Same amount of money.
Yeah.
And
what would you rather do now?
Those of you that don't do weddings, when you do a wedding from start to finish, the national average in the United States is that you do between 80 and 120 hours. From the first phone call until when you deliver the album, it's between 80 and 120 hours. And I'm like, recipe is nothing. It's same amount of money and a fraction of the time.
Where's my calculator? Let's split it and say 100 hours. Okay. So what's the average price? Around 5,000? 6,000? Okay.
Now so in those numbers, I usually charge 4,000 for a wedding. And so if you can sell 10 recipes at $400 a piece
In your kitchen,
in
in
your
your
kitchen.
pajamas, if you
Oh,
want, or your yoga pants, right?
but here's another added expense that Pretty Focus doesn't tell you about. Buy yourself some really good shoes. You're gonna need
I'm
some
gonna
good
have to
shoes.
add those to our Amazon storefront.
I'll give you the ones. I just bought 3 pairs of Hokas because
It's
you're on your
true.
feet. You're on your
It
feet.
is true. I
You're
love
working.
Echoes. I'm wearing tennis shoes. Oh my gosh. I can't even, the thought of photographing barefoot, it just, yeah,
I did that a
get
couple
good
times.
shoes.
It's not a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I know people have the, I don't know what they're called, the squishy mats, they're fatigue
Oh yeah,
mats.
yeah.
So we have a couple of those in our Amazon storefront for people to stand on as they're like by their table and stuff. But um, yeah, yes, Joanne, I did add the spongy restaurant floors to the list or fatigue mats, so I added that to our list. Yeah, because it really does make a difference. Um, so, oh my goodness. So you guys, I'm gonna ask Fabiana some more questions. I want to know what questions you have for her. I need to go through and look at our comments to see if there's any questions that I've missed. But what would you? I love this from Sarah. It's so energizing to hear your perspective. I didn't think I could be more excited about graduating, but your passion is so wonderful.
Sarah's work is gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Oh, goodness gracious. I love that. Joanne is throwing a party on Tuesday and celebrating sign up day.
Go
So that's
Joanne.
great.
Go Joanne. Woo-hoo!
Let me see. But yeah, if you guys, those of you who are watching, if you have questions about for Fabiana, anything related to her business or the course, please don't hesitate to ask anything. So what would you tell people who are thinking about joining? Because I feel like your story is so unique, right? That you started your own blog and you working, with brands, right off the bat on your blog with sponsored posts. That's not necessarily something every one of our grads sees, but I think that the relationships that they build with their bloggers is there. Because whenever I worked with bloggers, that's what we were able to do, is we worked with on sponsored content together. And so I know exactly what you're talking about with all those products. They're so fun. I still have them. I still have a lot of them. So what this is what I'm getting ready to ask, Janice. So thank you. Is what advice do you have for those who are thinking about joining, but also current students? So start with those who are thinking about joining. What advice do you have for them?
Go through and watch these interviews. For me, it was really, really helpful to watch other people. Know that all of these people I haven't met any of them in person, but I have talked to them on the phone. These are real people. This is not a scam. And know that you're going to work. You know what?
Yeah.
It's not easy money. You're going to work. But you're going to work at home with your kids. You can work at night. You don't have to leave the house. I signed up for Walmart Plus and they just deliver the groceries, or Rebecca and I will go and we'll buy all our stuff together. And so, it's doable. It's a real thing. And really you can kind of decide what you're going to do with it. And I changed my mind 3 times on what I was going to do. So don't box yourself in, but just know it's real. And if you have questions, seriously, message me. I will tell you. I feel like I'm pretty honest. So, but yeah, it is amazing. And then, so look into it. Decide if this month isn't good for you, maybe next month is. There are payment plans, so you don't even have to pay for it all up front. Melody's got information about all that. Just know that you're going to learn. You're going to learn. And even if you're an experienced photographer, you're going to learn.
Yeah.
You're going to learn how to do it right. And you're not going to have to unlearn stuff. And then for current students, I would say this, and I did a little post one time on this. I had a mind shift at one point because, I went into it thinking, oh, I'm going to get this done. It's going to be so fast, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to do it. And then I'm blah, blah, blah. And at one point, I kind of went through the realization of you have to do, just to kind of tell you guys, you have to do at least 15 practice. And then once you get the go ahead, the coaches say, okay, you're ready to work on your portfolio. And you can't use those pictures that you did in practice. You can take what you learned and reshoot it, or you can do something completely different. And so then you have to do at least 8, but plan on about 12 portfolio shoots. And so think back to the cosmetology thing. They don't just let these girls and guys who learn how to cut hair just go out and get a job. They make them practice and do, and that's what you're doing. And so my mind shift was, I have 30 chances to get feedback from working photographers. And it went from, oh, I have to do all this stuff, to, oh my gosh, I have an opportunity to,
Wow.
I've got a coach's ear and I'm going to put it up there and they're going to tell me what I did right and did wrong. You can decide what you're going to do. Like I shot, what was it? Sharks. It was a shark drink and it was for Shark Week.
Yeah.
And you know what? I had to shoot it 4 times. And poor Lindsay got so sick of me asking her questions. But I wanted to learn how to shoot a drink. And it's different. You light it a little bit different. And so you have this opportunity that you have working professionals. You have people that are doing what you want to do, and you've got their ear. And I just took it as, okay, instead of I have to, I get to.
I love that.
So that was a mind shift for me that really paid off.
I get to do this. That's one thing that we talk about within our coaching team is like, we get to do this. We get to do this. And we don't see problems, right? We see solutions. We see opportunities. We see opportunities for growth. That is an incredible mind shift. And I thank you for sharing that, because I think that's really, really inspiring for people to hear, and people need to know that. And so our coaches are for you. Like you said, our coaches are the nicest people on the planet. Like they are the people that you want in your corner. They're the people that you would be friends with outside of Pretty Focused, right? They're just genuinely wonderful, kind people. And they only want what's best for everybody, right? And so when we talk about our coaching, what you said, Redonda had said, is I'll kind of elaborate on that so you guys kind of get a little bit of insight on our coaching is we coach to the one thing, and we have areas of focus. We have camera settings, we have lighting, editing, recipe execution, we have composition and styling. And so those are the areas that our coaches are looking for to analyze people's work as they're reviewing them, to know what area they need to give feedback on. They're looking for, and those are tiered. We have a like a hierarchy of what's foundational, what's core, what's mastery, right? So we also have those prioritized of what we're looking for. So really first we're looking to make sure that those foundational skills are met. Awesome. Great. If not for that post, right? For that post that you're working on, is we're looking at all of those things for each individual post. And then we go up to, if all those foundational skills are met, great. Let's take a look at our camera settings. How are our recipe execution and our photo variety, because again, that's really important for bloggers to have. They need well executed recipes. We can't forget that. That's a big part of what we do. And then if those are met, then great. We're looking for composition and we're looking for styling, because those are like like the icing on the cake, right? And so, because it doesn't, again, the composition is, or the recipe execution is so important for food
And buy
bloggers.
yourself a timer.
Yeah.
If you're going to do this,
Yeah.
buy yourself a really good timer. I can't even tell you how many things I had to throw away because I'm an idiot and I started washing dishes and then it overcooked and it was terrible.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, Amy's going to have my hide if I cook this thing. I got to do it over again.
Oh yeah. So our coaches look for one area, and they're going to look for the area that is going to move the needle forward the most, starting at those foundational skills. And then they give you like a take action. So they give you one area of focus, because it can be overwhelming getting a ton of feedback, right? So they give you one area of focus, they give you take action. When you get to Lindsay, we have a dedicated Facebook group now just for our portfolio feedback. When you get to Lindsay actually gives you feedback in each of these areas. And I can't believe how effective that has been, and the work that we see that is produced because of that coaching is incredible. So she's going to go through all 6 areas and really help you know what to work on. This is like you paid a portfolio coach to say, hey, tell me what I need to work on for my portfolio. Help me build this portfolio. And that's included in the course. Like, just so you guys know and see like what type of coaching and portfolio feedback you get in Pretty Focused.
Yeah. And it's,
So
if you can, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to get negative feedback for me. Like, I just wanted them to go, woohoo, you did great. Let's just not even have you practice. Let's just go straight to the Yeah, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And good thing it didn't, because that feedback just teaches you what they're looking for, because they know they're working. They know what's going to sell. They know what bloggers need. Just one stupid thing is like, Lindsay always, she told me more than once, I did this construction cake once and I didn't get
I remember that.
Oh my gosh, that cake. I got to reshoot it because I don't like it as much anymore. But anyway, she didn't do, I didn't do a not portrait, a landscape picture of it. And she's like, please tell me you got a landscape picture of this. And I was like, oh yeah, totally. And I went back and I'm photoshopping it in so it looks right.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to reshoot it at the time. And anyway, sorry, Lindsay. So now I see why she told me that, because I have to, when I do a blog post, there are 2 places that I have to have a landscape picture. So if you're shooting everything portrait, and then the blogger's like, wait, there's 2 places in a blog post where you have to have landscape. And so just having her put that in my mind of, you need to do that. And I think Alicia had done that too, but I mean, it really was cemented on that one because I knew I didn't want to reshoot it. And I was like, how am I going to Photoshop this thing so that I don't have to do that? But yeah, I mean, they're telling you these things because they know. And now as a blogger, I'm like, well, I better dang well sure. I mean, I've got Lindsay in my ear going, make sure you get a landscape of, some of those heroes. So
again, it's knowing the end result.
Yep.
Because there's those featured images. There's like Google's formatting is kind of odd, honestly.
Yeah. You have 2 that you have to have in each post. So
it's got to look good as a square. Well, I guess it also depends on your blog theme, but I know some bloggers are like, it's got to look good square for the recipe card, and that same photo has to look good landscape for Google.
Right.
Rectangle for Google. And it's a little bit tricky.
Yep.
But that's why we say to have a variety of images.
Yep.
That's the other thing too, is I've had people come to me who are already working for bloggers. Great, good for you. And again, they just want access to Buyers Club, and they'll show me their work, and I'm like, your work is beautiful. You showed me the same photo 8 different times and with different aspect ratios. And it's like, that's not going to work.
Well, because you have to have, just thinking of like what I've got to put on my blog, which is sheshared.com, if anybody wants to go look.
Sheshared.com.
Sheshared.com. So Carrie Lynn's is She Saved. And she started off with couponing and then added more lifestyle and recipes. And then the sister site is She Shared. So sheshared.com. So anyway, but
I'm putting those in the chat so people can see them.
But when I look at like a recipe that I do now, I know that I have to have, for every recipe I do, I have to have 2 Pinterest images. I have to have a square that's going to be the featured image. I have to have a horizontal that's going to be on the recipe card. And so, all these things that they're telling you to do, it's because, you can't have, let's say it's the same shot, but then you crop it, but then you get back a little bit and it's all the same angle. If you've got that on a recipe and it's like there 5 times, you just look like an idiot. I mean, the blogger looks like an idiot. So like, they don't know what they're doing. So you have to have all these varieties and hero hacking. You have to know about hero hacking. You will know all about hero hacking.
You will know.
You will know all about it. But
now, so too, if you're a student, I think advice that we would give is to make sure you are talking to your bloggers and communicating. Be like, can you tell me exactly, where you're sharing these? So ask those questions. Are you looking for pins? Are you looking for, Google? So you really know what it is you're working for. Now, if you're working one-on-one with a client, you can do that. If you're working and selling in like from a shop, you don't know who's buying your work. So to make sure that you have that variety and you're providing that ahead of time, just be like, okay, I need images that are going to go well on Pinterest. I need images that are going to go well on Instagram. Right. And so that you're just kind of taking a look, and I would stay in tune with the social media outlets too, to see what photos are doing well on Instagram, what photos do well on Pinterest, and that's really hero hacking. Right. That's the point of hero hacking too, is to make sure that you get the images that you need for that recipe. So we hero hack to make sure we have the images that we need. We hero hack to make sure the recipe is properly executed and there's no weird ingredients. Right. Because some people will try to they get so concerned that it's a unique and exclusive recipe that what they do is they end up doing something weird to it, using a weird ingredient or using a weird, odd method that nobody would ever use. Right. And that bloggers are gonna be like, why? Why did you do this? So
something as simple as onions, does Google prefer a recipe to have red onions or green onions in it? I mean, I just did a Texas caviar, and
I think that's a great example.
Says green onions, and when I looked at it, every recipe had red onions, and so I'm like, okay, well, you got to think. In the perfect world, you could just do whatever you want, but we're dealing with Google. We're dealing with search engines. We're dealing, you got to play the game or get out of the game.
Yeah. So. Kate, this is a really great question. Should we provide square photos for bloggers for Instagram to save the blogger time? I would say no, because the blogger you might pick the wrong one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They know what is going to work for Instagram really well, right? So I would say if you are working with a blogger one-on-one and you have that relationship, you can talk to them, about it. Most bloggers, they're like, just give me the photos and let me do it.
And they may use your photos in a reel. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they could make a reel out of it, just set it to music, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Or
right.
do a carousel. And so if you have cropped those images, you have just limited their use of that image.
Yeah.
But,
Absolutely.
keep in mind that they may want to do that. So part of the thing that you need to learn in Pretty Focused is how to style it and where to put stuff in the image. So that you're giving, it doesn't have to be every photo, but some of them need to be able to look good.
And so you really don't want to be too close, because a lot of bloggers do crop for Instagram. They will crop differently for Facebook. They'll crop differently, for Pinterest. And so if you get too close to the food, then when they crop that, if they're going on Instagram, they're cropping it into a square and they're getting closer, then again, you've limited the amount of images that they can use. Like that drip shot that they want to use on Facebook, right? If you get really, really close to that drip, they can't use it, or they can't crop it the way that they need to. So always keep that in mind, that yes, we want the food to be the center, but we also don't want it to be so close to the food that they can't do what they need to with the photo.
Right. And also the opposite is true. If everything is pulled back too far, you can't see how delicious it is. So
exactly.
again, you have to have the variety. And that was something that I really learned through Pretty Focused, was the difference. I can't even remember the term, the difference between variety and what's the other word you guys use?
Variation.
Yes. Variety and variation. And that's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So, oh my gosh, I have really loved this interview. This has been fantastic. It's been so good. You are so special, and this has been incredible to just hear your story from where you were and where you are now, and like, tell us in a nutshell, summarize. We kind of heard it throughout, like, summarize what has happened. I know people want part 2. They're like, we need part 2.
You guys don't want to listen to me talk all day.
What would you say Pretty Focus has allowed you to do?
Well, I said it before. I think Pretty Focus is kind of a choose your own adventure. There are so many things that you can do with this knowledge. It's like you're going to vocational school. You get to decide what you're going to do with this. In our day and age, with it is so digital, you decide what you're going to do. For me, it's a great resource. For me, it's a great network. Like I said, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on photography courses, not for food, but for other stuff. Not one of them gave me a client. Not one of them said, here's a buyer's club and all these people want what you're offering. So it really is training in a certain type of photography. And we talk about food, but you can also use this. There's bloggers that are looking for crafts. And so if you're really into crafts, you can do that too. There's just so many opportunities. Kind of, don't be afraid to talk to your friends. Don't be afraid to tell them what you're doing. If I wouldn't have talked to Carrie Lynn, there's no way I'd be doing what I'm doing right now. There's just so many things you can do, and it's so fun. Oh my gosh, I'm having so much fun. I've got my daughter doing this. I've got 2 friends, one that has 2 young kids. Her husband is a manager for Costco, and they're moving, and she's just starting this. There's also a recipe development. Like if you don't want to take the pictures, there's a recipe development course that you can take on. You just figure out recipes. How freaking cool is that? You
Yeah.
can just, you can just be cooking and trying stuff out.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different things that you can do with all this stuff. And then, I've got another friend who kids are growing up. She's taking the course right now. And I mean, she is just killing it so much
Yeah.
better than me. And I mean, she's already better than me right now. And I think she's doing 2 assignments. So Michelle, you keep going. But yeah, it's just so fun. It's so
So,
fun. And it's
so
an
I,
entire community of
yeah,
like-minded women and men.
there are men in there
Yeah.
too. God
Yep.
bless them. They're doing a
Yep.
great.
Yep. Yep.
Oh man.
The
So,
hubby's home.
all right. I hear that you have flexibility in what you want to do. When you talk about like choose your own adventure, there's flexibility there.
Right.
There's
Right.
freedom there.
Yep.
And you have like a whole new sense of purpose where you talk about I don't have time to be sad because I just what you're doing
Yeah.
is so fun and so creative, and I think it's incredible. It's very, very inspiring. I love it. So
And I'm still
um,
doing seniors. I still have some
yeah,
seniors that, I mean, I'm doing
yeah,
10 this year. I'm not shooting football, but I'm shooting basketball for our high school. I'll do a couple of college football games. So, I don't feel like it's one or the other. I'm not doing as much portrait work. I have
yeah.
one wedding client that I'll probably take, that two of
Hmm.
my seniors, there's a little rumor that they may be getting married. And, I would love to do their wedding. So, but one wedding instead of relying on that is totally
Yeah,
perfect for me. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You're right. It doesn't have to be one or the other. You can
No.
continue to do portraits as you do
But it's my
this.
choice. I
Yes.
can say yes or no because I'm not
Mhm.
relying on that money.
Yeah.
So,
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. For this evening has been incredible. I know I am going to walk away from this inspired, and so I hope everybody does too. So, you guys, we're opening on Tuesday next week. So be on the lookout for emails, and we'll be following up our opening with an info session if you've got more questions and you want to learn more. And then we'll have another grad interview next week. So we hope that you can join us for that too. So we will talk to you guys later.